Hello everyone. This video is going to provide you with an overview of how to complete essay number 1. I'm going to provide you with some background information about the purpose and rationale for essay 1. I'm also going to provide you with an overview of the directions of how to complete essay 1 and what I will be looking for when I evaluate your writing. Finally, I am going to go over the official requirements in order for your essay to be considered complete, the items that you will absolutely need in order to receive a complete mark for this particular essay. First, this essay is entitled Ways of Seeing, and I've entitled it that because of the fact that you will be examining different perspectives about a particular topic. So what does that mean? Well, ultimately, as we begin our journey on writing this semester, one of the first places to start is observation. And before we can actually engage in an argument or debate, which, as you know, academic writing focuses on traditionally, making arguments about a particular topic or debating or discussing in order to either persuade or argue a particular topic to move knowledge forward. But before we can do that effectively, we need to observe. We need to gather as much information as we can about the way that people see the world, the way that people see a particular position, subject, person, situation. Moreover, we need to examine the why. Why do they see something the way that they do? What informs their perception about this particular topic? So why are we doing this? Well, ultimately, if we don't examine the ways in which people perceive something, we will make a lot of assumptions about the people we participate in these conversations with. What ends up happening at that point is that we end up having conversations with ourselves. We end up having conversations in a vacuum, an echo chamber, and those phrases are very common, especially in our debate and discussions today. With the invention of the internet and the ability to engage in active, fast online debate, very rarely are we able to take the time to enter conversations of discussion and debate in an effective way. Many of us, and at times myself, have been guilty of simply wanting to be right. But if we're always right about something, what we often miss is understanding other worldviews, understanding different perspectives, lived experiences. But again, more importantly, what can we learn from these different perspectives? And that is the essence of this particular piece. So I'm going to start by saying that there is no right or wrong answer with this essay. This is an exploratory essay, which means we are not prepared to argue just yet. So if you are already thinking about a topic you have in mind, or if you have written a paper before about a particular topic and you're trying to make it fit in this essay, I can assure you it will not work. We are not trying to come up with solutions or answers or make positions or stances just yet. The goal and rationale of this assignment is to take a step back and to begin to observe, to step outside of ourselves for a moment, or if in the instance that you take a particular approach, which I'll explain in a moment, will allow you to take a step back and self-reflect about why you hold a specific perspective. And perhaps maybe another approach would be to not focus maybe on yourself, but to explore the different perspectives that others hold that are outside of yourself, outside of your group, outside of your age, outside of pretty much any of the labels that we can consider that make up who we are. So to begin, as I said before, the goal here is to first identify a subject that you wish to explore people's perspectives about. When I use the term subject, It could be anything. This is where you get to choose the topic, in a sense, not necessarily the theme of the essay, but the topic in which you wish to explore. So this could include things like policies, law, social issues, cultural issues, or cultural topics. It could be a person, it could be a situation, it could be pretty much anything that you feel is important enough to take some time and explore the perspectives. In a sense, it could be random, but in another sense, it really shouldn't be random. It could be something that has been of a curious nature to you, something that you haven't explored before or haven't taken the time out to explore. Or perhaps, and if you are daring to explore another viewpoint that is in opposition of your own. Right now, as you know, we are in a time of serious tension, cultural, racial tensions, namely. And if you take a step back and observe the ways in which people respond to the different facets of these racial tensions that we're experiencing today, you can get a glimpse about the way that people see the world. Now, we don't get an entire glimpse, of course, but this can spark an opportunity to begin to ask questions rather than to attempt to engage in debate or argue. You can take the time to begin to invite them into a conversation, in a sense, that you are granted access to either their world, their perspective, or whatever the case might be. So, whatever subject you choose, there's no censorship about. It is entirely up to you. We're going to get more into how you can narrow your topic because it could be done in different ways. Remember that this paper is the shortest one you have to address quite a large or broad theme, in a sense. So you're really going to have only just a quick glimpse of these different perspectives. But should you decide to explore your topic further, you're more than welcome to do that as we get into the different types of essays. So you can continue that journey if you wish. So for instance, if I wanted to select a subject, and I want to talk about the racial tensions that are taking place today, you might want to start off by asking yourself whose perspectives might be significant in order to understand this topic either better from a different lens or to deepen the conversation, to move knowledge forward, to educate, whatever the purpose is. Now, as far as perspectives are concerned, okay, you will need to have a minimum of 2, and I will get into the different ways that you can do that. But as you begin to select your subject, consider its significance, okay? Everything should have a purpose as to why you're going to write about what you're going to write about. Because as we know with writing, there's always a message, right? So if you're picking this subject, you are inherently, in a sense, starting down a journey of picking an audience in which you want to communicate this message to. So, for instance, depending on the subject and depending on the perspectives, how you approach this will be designed solely on the audience that you wish to communicate this information to. You may not know who the audience is just yet. You really should come at this from an open mind perspective. In other words, don't assume what answers or responses or perspectives you're going to get. Just be open to them. Once you've explained the significance of this subject, the significance could be a cultural significance. It could be significant because it's needed to educate. It could be significant because it opposes a popular narrative or opinion. It could be significant because it validates those opinions. Consider those critical questions from the blog post that I addressed in the video. You can apply those same questions as you begin thinking about the significance of your subject. Part 2, then, the minimum of 2 perceptions, okay, is going to ask you to include in one of 3 ways. So you'll need to select one. The first is you as an observer. In other words, you will not be participating in including your perspectives. In a sense, you will be staying out of it, so to speak. You are simply reporting out on 2 minimum other perspectives, more if you wish to include more. Keep in mind that these perspectives don't necessarily have to be opposite. Oftentimes when we talk about 2 difference of something, we often think in opposition, but it doesn't have to be. It could just simply be different. The second is you and another perception or perceptions, meaning you are now including your own perspectives because you wish to participate in this discussion, okay? Now, it could be you as an individual and another individual, or it could be you as a much larger group. For instance, you as a student. So you will be exploring students' perceptions and or teacher perceptions. So you as part of or included alongside other student perceptions, if that's how you want to do it. Of course, the label or what you're included as far as a group can be different or varied. Finally, you at 2 different points in your life. And, I include this because our perceptions change and there are factors and instances and experiences that change our views or perspectives about something. And so if you've experienced something like that, where you've once held a specific perspective and then it has altered in some way, then perhaps maybe your paper is more narrative based in that you are telling that story. The outline and how you decide to approach it, of course, is going to be based off of first person, in a sense that you can use the I and kind of explore more storytelling, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Once you report out on the perspectives, keep in mind that you're going to have to use evidence. You're going to learn in this class that evidence is key. In other words, how do you know? Prove it. So if you are reporting out on other people's perspectives, how will you show us how you know those perspectives are held? You will need to do that by directly quoting or paraphrasing people. So that could be done through interviews. It could be done through gathering their comments on social media. It could be done by asking them directly, surveying them, questioning them. What you want to focus on for this essay is primary source material. That information is provided in the video in the module of what that means. But your evidence needs to be included in the writing portion of your paragraph. So one way you can examine how to incorporate that is to look at the sample paragraph. You can look at the sample student essay as well to see how that might be integrated. Obviously, if you are using your own perspective, you don't need to quote yourself. You would just say, this is what I think and why. Okay. Finally, part 3 of this essay is asking you to analyze and synthesize all of the information you've found. So, in a sense, after you've presented these multiple perspectives to your reader, now you, as the author, are going to draw some conclusions about them. Keep in mind, as you draw these conclusions, they should stem from what you presented as far as evidence in the essay. So, for instance, if you are finding that a lot of the perspectives about the racial tension is misguided from your own position, as you observed and analyzed, you will then communicate to your audience and discuss and present the conversation that it is misguided perceptions and explain why. We need to see from the evidence how you drew those conclusions. You also would need to communicate why it's so important. So for instance, is being misguided about these particular racial tensions problematic? If so, why? What's your message about what you found regarding these perspectives to your audience? This is the essence of essay number 3. As far as requirements are concerned, this essay does need to be 3 pages. You may or may not have to include outside sources. For instance, if you are using your own perspectives, you do not need to cite yourself. If you are incorporating other people's perspectives, for instance, then you will absolutely need to cite them. Many of you will be using direct quotes from people you've had conversations with, or if they come from online, let's say interviews, or interviews from, let's say you're getting a perspective from a particular celebrity, chances are that they would have done an interview with a magazine or done some kind of interview via video or YouTube. Well, you will need to cite that source where you got their interview from or their words from. If you see the resource material here under Essay 1 MLA, it's going to provide you with how that would look and how you will integrate that specifically for Essay 1. So I provided some different options that you might encounter as you go and journey in collecting the different perspectives. Keep in mind that 3 pages is 3 full pages. That does not include the works cited page. The works cited page should be after the completed 3 pages or more, should you develop more. All of the resource material is available here. Please make sure you click and review every single one of them, as they are going to help you in developing your essay. That includes things like the template you will use for the essay. It will also include an outline and checklist of what you will need. This is going to be how I will be evaluating your essay as well. As far as particular topics are concerned and particular ways in which you can approach gathering the information, it's entirely open, which can, in some cases, make this journey a little frustrating, because you're in control as far as the decision making is concerned. So, for instance, from the very beginning of what you decide to use to explore the topic, it really depends. So, for instance, you can say, I want to gather people's perspectives about the way that they see a particular celebrity. Okay. Now, be cautious with asking them yes or no questions, because sometimes they'll just say yes or no, and that's not going to be enough for you to include or cite evidence or information to write this paper. So you're going to have to get creative as far as how you're going to get their perspectives. How do they see things? Asking the questions why, and simply saying, do you see this? How do you see this particular situation? So if you use specific events, for instance, or specific positions, that is more helpful, because then people will be likely more to provide you with more information as far as the why is concerned. If you have any questions regarding how to approach this essay, please feel free to let me know. And I always encourage you to send me potential topic ideas or things that you're thinking about doing and approaches for your essay, and I can help guide you in how to narrow the focus and or generate particular questions to help you ask some of the people you're thinking about getting perspectives from. As far as the perspectives and who you ask, it's really going to depend on the route that you're going to want to take, what conversation you're going to have. So let's say you're talking about or exploring whether or not police officers should have their cameras, okay? You're not going to say or ask any random person, should police officer. That's probably going to end up in random results. But we could ask people who are victims of, let's say, police violence, or we can ask people who have been framed for police violence when that was not the case, let's say as a police officer. By asking these particular participants of these conversations, you're going to get different responses, which in a sense will help us understand the conversation better from multiple viewpoints, okay? So, with that being said, as mentioned before, if you have questions or if you're unsure about the topic, feel free to email me and I'll be happy to engage and provide you with different ideas as far as how you might be able to flesh out what you're thinking about doing for this particular essay.